talking about Amazon's new truck fleet and all that cardboard. David Goritz is here to explain some of this to us. So David, we've got two parts of your story here. We're talking about Amazon's new truck fleet and the problem with having too much cardboard. So why don't we start with the trucks? What's happening there?
Okay, so Amazon is doing something pretty interesting. They're building 100,000 electric vehicles, 100,000 electric trucks, which they're going to start putting on the road next year and have all of them on the road within 10 years. Now, to put this in perspective, just to give you the scope of Amazon compared to, say, UPS, who's been doing this for, 100 years or so, UPS has 120,000 land vehicles, only about 10% of which are sustainable fuel vehicles, whereas Amazon is building 100,000 of them that they're going to put on the roads within the next 10 years. So Amazon is making a huge push to put out their own vehicle fleet that they control. Now, the vehicle fleet is being built by a company called Rivian, which, think of it as Tesla, but custom and for trucks. And what Rivian is doing is Rivian is working with Amazon to build a really custom vehicle in 3 different sizes based on, I would assume, the neighborhood or the region where stuff is being delivered. And so this is what Amazon's looking at. And we're looking at 100,000 Amazon-designed, Amazon-controlled electric vehicles being fielded out there.
All right, so moving on to the cardboard end of things now. Online shopping, of course, has caused a growth in the use of cardboard, right?
Okay, so basically the thing that's involved here is we know, all of us know, because we've all bought from Amazon, that cardboard is everywhere. And what's very interesting about this is becoming an ecological issue in addition to a logistical issue. And so let me give you a couple of details. There's a market researcher called Fast Markets out there who says that online shopping from vendors is 6 to 7 times more cardboard intensive than shopping in a local store, which essentially means that everything is being shipped in a box, as opposed to you're going to your local store and bringing home a rotisserie chicken and putting it in your car or a bag that you bring with you. So we're looking at 6 to 7 times more cardboard being used because of this. Now, Amazon's aware of this, and back in 2017, they created frustration-free packaging. Actually, they created frustration-free packaging as far back as 2008. But by 2017, they had 750,000 products available in frustration-free packaging. And the company generally reports that the program eliminated 215,000 tons of packaging material and avoided shipping 360 million boxes. Now, this seems really cool, right? Because it seems like you've got a lot going on here. But the reality of the situation is that retailers are not building, or not all retailers are building 2 products, one for Amazon and one for retail, manufacturers, that is. What they're doing is they're building one, and there's been a rise in the past 10 years of something called repackaging centers. And what happens is the manufacturers ship their products to the repackaging center, and the repackaging center then tears apart all the cardboard, gets it ready for Amazon, ships it off to Amazon, and then you now have more cardboard scrap. So to put this into volume perspective, the American online shopping world in the last 5 years has used 20 to 23 billion square feet of corrugated cardboard. And online shopping has increased U.S. containerboard demand by 1.5 million tons. That's on top of the traditional demand from the overall manufacturing center. So as you can see, cardboard is a thing.
So David, what's the issue though? I mean, cardboard is recyclable, right?
Okay, so this gets really interesting as well. This is where we start to talk about being a member of the world community. Because up until 2017, 2018, China used to accept nearly half of all the world's recyclables. Now, what this meant for local recycling centers is that they were able to go through aggregators who then sold their recyclable cardboard and plastic to China, who then recycled it and then made some degree of profit. So what happened was that there was some degree of profit chain all the way from the local recycling plants all the way to China and back. But in 2017, in an effort to basically stem an ever-increasing nationwide environmental disaster, China instituted its national sword ban on trash imports. And what this means is that China basically said no to the world's trash. That means that cardboard that used to be sent to China is now piling up here in the US. So far, that seems like a reasonably good idea in the sense that, okay, well, we'll just recycle it. But it turns out that the amount of cardboard that consumers produce as opposed to the amount of cardboard that retailers discard, is approximately 3 times what it used to be today. 3 times what it used to be. So what that means is that more consumer cardboard is making it to the curb as opposed to making it to the dumpster in the back of real retailers. Why is this important? This is important because consumer used cardboard is generally dirty or filthy. And what that means is that about 25 to 30% of the materials that would be picked up by a recycling truck are too contaminated to go anywhere but a landfill or an incinerator. So here's what we're looking at. We're looking at this ever increasing problem because of these two conflicting vectors. First, we're talking about the increase in the use of cardboard. We're all buying things online and the cardboard volume is increasing tremendously. The second vector is it's getting harder to get rid of the cardboard, both because we're making it messier and the place we used to send it to isn't accepting it anymore. And so we're seeing like community recycling centers going out of business. We're seeing communities close their recycling center. We're seeing the stuff be pumped out of an incinerator now or dumped in a landfill. It's becoming a mess, and it's increasing because we're all we're all buying from Amazon and not going to our local store. I'm a Prime member, and that's my primary purchase mechanism, and many of us are. So that's what we're looking at.
All right, so let's connect the dots here from Amazon's new fleet to this concern about cardboard. Connect that for us.
Okay, so let's talk about the challenge. What happens is, and we're going to talk about cardboard technology for a second. A cardboard box is a cardboard box is a cardboard box, except it's also an encapsulating unit. Now, this sounds weird and a little bit geeky, but bear with me. A cardboard box can hold more than one object. This is obvious. It also holds a label, which is basically the destination of where the cardboard goes. You network people will think of this as packets and addresses on a packet. So the cardboard box becomes a shell or an encapsulating unit that protects what's being shipped from Amazon's warehouse to Amazon's planes to a local redistributor or hub to UPS or USPS or the Amazon Flex drivers, eventually to the curb, and from the curb eventually to the porch. And the need for the cardboard box is to protect what's being shipped, but it's also necessary in terms of controlling the objects and making sure that there's essentially a chain of custody from Amazon's warehouse all the way to your porch. Now, what happens if we eliminate the need for that chain of custody? What happens if we can eliminate the need for the cardboard box to ensure that the product makes it all the way from one end to the other? That's where these trucks come in, because until now, until Amazon's own fleet, and of course there's all sorts of issues about job loss and Amazon potentially replacing or displacing the services that they sell to UPS or the post office or individual flex drivers. We're not going there. We're just talking about cardboard for the moment. So the issue is, what happens if Amazon can maintain that chain of custody all the way from their warehouse to the porch? And did I define chain of custody a minute ago, or did I just mention it? Okay. So if you watch Law and Order, you know about chain of custody. It's basically, there's a murder and the police officer picks up a knife. He puts the knife in the plastic bag. The plastic bag then goes to the lab. The lab does an analysis, and the analysis then goes into court. And what it does is the chain of custody is what validates the evidence, what basically makes sure that the evidence is actually evidence and hasn't been tampered with along the way. Amazon is basically doing this using cardboard boxes. They stick your product in the cardboard box, and it makes it all the way to your house. And you're pretty assured that what they stuck in the cardboard box makes it to your house, because the plastic Ziploc bag that the Law and Order investigators used is now your cardboard box. So, but what happens if Amazon controls that entire sequence? Instead of having to hand off products from an Amazon plane, for example, or an Amazon hub to the Postal Service or UPS, then things get interesting, because then Amazon could potentially, now, and I should tell you that this is all speculative, okay? The use of cardboard is statistically real. The use of the trucks that Amazon is creating is real, but the speculation is, what could they do with it? That's entirely speculative. Amazon hasn't come out and said, we're doing this. It's just basically me as a logistics guy thinking, where could this go? But let's play with that for a second. What happens if Amazon built their warehouse and extended the warehouse all the way to your curb. And this is doable because they could control every single piece of the chain of custody. They could control the product as it leaves their warehouse. They could control the product as it enters the plane. They could control the product as it makes it into their hub. They could control the product now as it goes out to their truck. So what they could do is essentially create the warehouse bins that existed in Amazon's warehouse, and they can extend those same things all the way out to the truck. And that way, instead of having to put everything in cardboard, they could use a combination of AI and logistics and binnery, which is basically how things are managed from point to point, and move those objects all the way from warehouse to your curb without anybody other than Amazon using it, which means Amazon systems are in control the whole way. This means essentially that if you ordered a screwdriver, instead of putting a screwdriver in a box the size of a refrigerator, what you can do is they can put that screwdriver in a bin. The bin makes it to a semi-truck. The semi-truck takes it to the plane takes it to the hub puts it on one of Amazon's vehicles, and it's still in a bin instead of in a carton, and that screwdriver is then delivered to your home. So we're almost there, right? We've almost got the whole way, but then we have to successfully somehow get that screwdriver from the back of the truck on your curb into your house. And we don't want to necessarily stick screwdrivers or laptops or whatever just on the porch willy-nilly. We have to have a way to secure that. And my guess is that we're going to start to see something like a receptacle, like a smart receptacle that Amazon produces to basically be the 21st century version of a mailbox for Amazon goods landing on porches, because there's a substantial increase in porch pirates, in in theft of Amazon goods dropped onto people's porches. And so there needs to be a pushback on that. And in the last 10 years, porch piracy has increased something like 600%, according to the LAPD. So now imagine then that we have a receptacle, a bin of some kind, a 21st century mailbox that's on everybody's porch or on most people's porch. Who pays for that? Well, in theory, you'd look at the reduced cost that Amazon would have. It might be another benefit for Prime members. It might be something where, there's some kind of offloading the cost from the consumer, because it would allow Amazon to track this stuff all the way to the porch, because they could potentially increase it, put some intelligence inside that receptacle that says, okay, the screwdriver has made it. And in fact, the consumer has removed the screwdriver and it's now in this consumer's hands. So what you were looking at is with this fleet of controlled trucks, we're looking at the potential of a supply chain or a retail delivery chain that is entirely vertically integrated inside of Amazon's logistics system. And that could potentially reduce the need for cardboard, which fundamentally existed for both protection of product, but also for that chain of custody, for basically allowing the product to exit Amazon's system, go into the UPS or USPS system, and then re-enter the consumer's world. So if we can get rid of that transfer, we might be able to reduce the volume of cardboard. So let's back all the way back up to the first statistic I gave you, which is that cardboard uses, online shopping uses 6 to 7 times more cardboard than if you go to the store. But if we can make the type of travel of an object similar to going to the store, in other words, that screwdriver that doesn't have to be put into a box, it's potential that the cardboard usage could go down by a fraction of what it was prior to this.
Okay, so what does all of this mean? Is this something that we could expect Amazon would be announcing anytime soon?
Well, Amazon has not, first off, many of these companies never talk about things that are in progress. But to be fair, Amazon has never even hinted of this. They've just started talking about their trucks. This is my sort of take on where that logistics could go. But when you look at a company that's looking at using drones for delivery, when you look at a company that's looking at any kind of advanced technology to manage that retail supply chain, it's reasonably obvious that they've probably thought about some of this. And clearly, since they've been dealing with the issue of cardboard for the past decade or two, they're aware of that as well. And it's not just cardboard, it's packaging materials. And if you start to talk to any of the Amazon execs, they'll talk about how much work they've put into reducing the amount of packaging materials they use, which is both a cost reduction and a waste reduction. So it's a win-win for both sides. So will we see this based on something Amazon has said? No. Will we see this because it might make some sense? It'd be kind of interesting. I kind of hope so.
All right, definitely something to consider here, David. Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about David's article, make sure you check that out on ZDNet. Thanks for watching.